Hey, welcome back. It is nice to see that you are all here for the second episode of my video blog. I think I even see some new faces. Well, welcome all, veterans and recruits. This is the second episode of Marco's remarkable video blog. I want to thank you for the very positive feedback that I received for the first episode. I asked viewers to leave comments and to recommend the topics to cover in my video blogs, and the response has been very lively and a lot of interesting ideas emerged. The one that seemed to capture the attention the most to interest most people was Solitaire Wargaming, how you play a multiplayer war game by yourself in solitaire mode, because it is a thing that is commonly done, but not everybody's familiar with it. So that will be the topic of the main segment of this video. Thank you to all who suggested that. If that is not the topic that you suggested, recommended, don't take it personally. Maybe your topic will be covered in the future. Feel free to keep suggesting and putting ideas out there. Next episode, I'm also going to base the video on feedback that I received. So it is still going to be a video resulting from your votes. And this is why in this episode we are not going to have a new topic to vote on, but next time you will have a chance to vote on several games, and the one that you will select will be reviewed next. So this episode, again, main thing is going to be wargaming in solitaire mode. Other than that, what I've been up to recently, main thing is I'm finally done with shipping all the rewards of my Kickstarter campaign. That was a lot of work, considering that it was only just myself doing everything. If you're a backer and you haven't received your rewards yet, worry not, because some of those I shipped just 2 days ago. Actually, no, that was yesterday morning. Actually, there's still one reward that I haven't shipped because it is some stuff that needs to come from the UK. But if you do not receive your stuff in, say, 2 weeks or so, then maybe something funny happened. Also, if there was a mistake in what you received, you didn't receive what you were supposed to. Again, it was me with over 200 packages to ship. The possibility of a mistake is there. Just contact me for anything that you may not be happy with about the rewards of my campaign. Contact me and we'll figure something out. Aside from that, I've also been playing games, believe it or not. And, well, I'm filming this on July 12, 2013. And last week I've been playing games related to the period, specifically 1775 by Academy Games, about the American Revolution, so that coincided with Independence Day, and Gettysburg Badges of Courage by Columbia Games, but it is part of the Columbia Block Games system, and that of course had to do with the Battle of Gettysburg, and it was the right time to play that since last week it was the 150th anniversary of the battle. I enjoyed both games very much, completely different from one another, but both based on systems that they knew already, and I found that those were two very good implementations of the core systems. I play some small fare also here and there. Tenka, I like that. Simple, linear, quick filler. Beer and Vikings, not my cup of beer, I guess, not my cup of tea. A game that I didn't enjoy very much. You can see my review about that for more information. And I went back to playing Thunderstone, a game that I played a lot in the past, and I hadn't played it for a while, and then I saw in stores some new sets of Thunderstone that I hadn't played yet, so I decided to go back to that game. I played Thunderstone Starter Set. My review's coming out very soon. Probably I'm going to play some other Thunderstone set that I hadn't tried yet in the near future, but games that I'm going to play in the future are going to be the topic of the last section of the video, of this episode of the video blog. Something that came out from your votes from the last time also is the monster game. I asked you to decide which monster game I would play next, and the winner is the Battle for Normandy by GMT. I'm just getting started. I just finished punching the 1560 counters that come with the game, punching them and sorting them out. I placed the map on the wall. Actually, I'm going to tell a little bit more about this in my next segment. So without further ado, let us first have a look at the map and the setup. I haven't set up a campaign yet. The map and the general situation in which I'm going to play the Battle for Normandy, and after that, Wargaming in Solitaire mode. Here's an update about something that I asked you, my viewers, to vote about in my last episode of my video blog, which was to choose the next monster game that I would play, and the winner is the Battle for Normandy by GMT, a huge representation of, well, the Normandy campaign in World War II. What you see here is the map of the game, of the full campaign game. The game has several scenarios, and not all of them will use all of the maps, but hey, I bought a monster game, I'm going to play the campaign game, I'm going to play with all the maps combined in one huge, beautiful map. Because buying a monster game to play the small scenarios, I don't know, it just feels like buying Playboy to do the crossword puzzles. Just bad use of resources. In any case, the Battle for Normandy, the map, which is a combination of 5 maps, is up on the wall, on my magnetic wall. It's a huge map. It is so huge that actually it barely fits on my magnetic wall. And actually, to be perfectly honest, it doesn't fit entirely, to the point that, as you can see, part of the map is horizontal. It didn't fit on my huge magnetic wall, and so I just created the little extension, and I placed it on that elegant 18th century table. And, well, I guess that just the units that need to go there will go vertically, horizontally at the beginning, then we'll start climbing on the wall. Huge map. Vertically is 77 inches, and horizontally is 61 inches. Now, as you can see, it is not perfectly rectangular because the maps are not perfectly aligned, just to, well, to follow the shape of the land here. So, well, you still need a table that is that big, but at least if you have a rectangular table, then you will have room around to place the charts and player rates and things like that. In any case, huge map. People at times ask me, how do you play games vertically? Well, using these little thingies here that are called magnetic counter holders. They also by the name of counter magnets or magnetic clips. They are long out of production. There's no one who is making new ones, so if you want to start your own collection of these little guys, you will need to go on eBay, look for stores that may still have them. There are 2 main sizes. One is a small size that will work with counters like the average counters you have in GMT games or MMP games, and another size which is a little bigger, but the majority of the ones that I have is the small size. So these little guys are magnetic, and they have, as you can see, a slot here. You slide the counter in, and when you need to flip the counter, that's a little annoying. You have to take it out, flip it, and put it back in. Also, most of these have a little sort of line that has been carved there. That's not really carved. It's more like sticking out. That little line allows you to keep the orientation because, of course, in most games that you play, you'll need to stack your counters. That means you will need to stack your counter holders if you're playing vertically. That way, for example, I place all of mine with that line in the upper half, and that makes it easy so I can just stack them, my counters one on top of the other, And this way I know, well, I know what the right orientation is, because of course, that stack is a little too big, because of course if you do not keep the orientation, then the thing simply will not attach itself. See? That's pretty much physics 101, but not even that before that. Very hard to find these days. There aren't many that are left. The ones that are left out there come for very expensive prices on eBay. Your best bet is to get them from people who already own them. Get them in a trade, get other gamers that are not in love with vertical board games anymore to sell them to you. Things like that. By the way, once you have them, what do you do with them and how do you place them? Well, you can simply use magnetic whiteboards like the one that I have here. And as you can see, I also use it to take notes. And you could play a medium game with a map of medium size on just a medium white magnetic board, the ones that you can buy, say, at Staples. For bigger games, well, it becomes a little more complicated. But then either you buy a lot of magnetic boards, you take the frames out and you combine them, or you simply buy sheets of metal and you screw them to the wall, or you have somebody building a structure for you, like I did here. As for the maps, how do I place the maps on the board, or on the magnetic board? If it's just a small map that I'm playing on a magnetic whiteboard, these things here, they usually come with a magnetic board when you buy them, are fine. I just place 4 of them in the 4 corners of the map when you're playing with a single map. Of course, when you're playing with multiple maps combined, like here, you do not want to have this big thing in the middle of the map covering several axes. So what you can do is you buy small magnets like these ones. These are small magnets and they are, look how small that one is. This one. And these are small magnets by Rare Earth. These magnets are so powerful, they're so strong. As you can see, you can place them there, you know, and the connection between several axes, this really is not going to bother or upset your gameplay. But these ones are very strong. Even the very small ones can really make a difference, can really help a lot. Those slightly larger ones are so strong, so strong that actually if you just clipped your nails recently, you're gonna have a hard time pulling that out from the magnetic board. You can move it around, slide it around, but to take it away from the magnetic surface, the easiest thing is this. If you use something made of metal, you attach it to it and you pull it out. Otherwise, those are very hard to remove. But that also means that they're very solid. The map that you're playing on is not going to fall anytime soon, which is, of course, pretty important. Reading the comments that viewers left for the first episode of my video blog, a topic that emerged as something that people were interested in was solitaire wargaming. In particular, playing multiplayer war games in a solitaire mode. How you do it? It's something that, if you haven't done it, seems crazy, impossible, completely counterintuitive, maybe a pathetic replacement for two-player games, for multiplayer gaming, maybe something you just do to learn the rules. And then actually there are people that do it also as a viable way of enjoying a war game. I happen to be one of these people, and we're not so few, we're not really the crazy minority. Professor Sabin, in his recent book Simulating War, actually states several times that the majority of all war gaming that is done these days is done in solitaire mode, and people like it. So, I guess this is mainly for those who have never tried this, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit on why you do it and what type of games work with this in this formula, and a couple of suggestions here and there about practical things you do to make a multiplayer game work and be enjoyable when you're playing it by yourself. The golden rule is simply this: you play a game playing all sides at the best of your possibilities. Motivations, why would you do it? And a viewer said something like, why would you play a game that way when one of the main reasons to play games is to be social, is to spend time with your friends? Well, that is definitely one of the main reasons why I play games, but it's the main one, not the only one. I play historical games also because I want to learn about the subjects of the games themselves, and the way in which I learn about about history from games is unique. I feel it is deeper than if I just read a book and look at the maps and look at pictures. It just gives me a completely different appreciation of history, of the problems and challenges that people that were really there, faced. It's just a phenomenal way. So this is one of the reasons. And what if I want to learn about a certain topics, really looked into a certain period in history that my friends are not interested in, maybe in that moment or maybe never? Well, a way I can do it is by playing the game Solitaire. And then also, what if actually it just so happens that all of my friends are busy in that specific moment in which I, who am a busy person too, happen to have a couple of free hours that I want to devote to gaming. It's not always just a matter of all my friends are playing games, I can play them too, but then I'll just say, no, you guys play a game and I stay home and I play another one. That happens very rarely to me, unless really they are playing something that I really don't like at all, and I really want to play something that I've been wanting to play for a while. Then it may happen that Solitaire becomes an alternative to social gaming. In most cases, I simply do it when nobody's around. I stay up until very late at night, way past bedtime for most people. Those are all hours, that is all time that I have to play. I wouldn't be able to play with other people anyways, and solitaire gaming is a great way of doing it. And then there's just games that actually lend themselves to solitaire gaming. Some of these games, even though they're released as multiplayer games, may even be better as solitaire games. You may have situations that are completely unbalanced, a situation in which one of the sides is just overwhelmingly more powerful than the other side is going to be slaughtered entirely. That side may still win the game by performing better than the party that was slaughtered historically. Say, if the player is slaughtered a little more slowly than the historical counterpart was, still that side may not be all that fun to play. And if you're just sitting there as a player, you devoted your free time to play that war game, and then for 3 hours you just sit there and you're destroyed for 3 hours and you don't even get to do much, that may not be all that fun. That game may even work better if you just play the two sides by yourself at the best of your possibilities. So there are just reasons why this could be a viable option. Which games work better? Well, generally speaking, thematic games, games with a strong theme, games with a strong narrative. War games are perfect. Occasionally I play a Euro game by myself, and just those don't work very well. If you don't build a story, if the different parties that I'm playing are not strongly different from one another, I just don't get passionate about that. And then seeing that, the red meeple won the game instead of brown meeple or green meeple is not all that exciting as to see, wow, if the Soviets did this thing and that thing, things could have gone differently historically, or at least there's a possibility why the Germans would have had this and that happening to them. Very different feeling. I also find that two-player games, two-player war games work much better. I just find it easy to care about both sides when I switch side mentally, to really get into the role, not to the point that I start believing in National Socialism or communism, that I really enter the perspective, the logistical, tactical situation. That is what I mean. So two-player games, I just care more about the sides that are involved. Other games that work better, a rule of thumb is usually no hidden information, so you do not have advantages when playing both sides that you would not have by playing against another player. You do not look into hidden information that you would not have access to if you were playing against another player. That is often true, but it is not rule written in stone. I talked about the rule of thumb because there are ways to turn this around. Card-driven games, for example, those are usually seen as not good for solitaire gaming because why? You know the cards that the other side has in their hands. That is usually bad. But in most of these games, you refill your hand at the end of your turn. An easy tweak here is simply that when you're playing a card-driven game by yourself, you refill your hand at the beginning of your turn. What does this mean? I am player A. I played my turn, my things, at the moment in which I usually would draw cards at the end of my turn. I don't do it. I put down my hand of cards and I take out the hands of player B. The hand of player B, the cards, and I start looking at the situation, studying. Well, guess what? I do not know exactly what cards player A is going to have. I know maybe some of those, but not all of them. And if you play card-driven games, you should know that sometimes one card makes a huge difference. So I play my turn as player B with a limited knowledge of what player A may do. Put down that I play as player A, I draw cards then, and I do not know exactly what player B is going to have because I haven't drawn the cards for player B. Very simple tweak, it works a lot. Again, not all card-driven games may work that well. For example, you have card-driven games in which the cards have a lot of interruptions available. You get to interrupt the opponent, and those actually do not work that well because they play their turn of player A, then as player B, I draw cards and I find an interrupt card that would have worked very well. Then, well, do you rewind time? It doesn't work that well unless you simply stipulate that those cards, well, you use them whenever you can, however you can. They don't work as well, but after all, both sides get damage hindered by that limitation. So that's still a balancing factor. Block games very often do not work very well because the fog of war is so important, but there are block games in which actually you do not have that much of a fog of war. Julius Caesar by Columbia Games is one such game. Because of the way the recruitment system works, I'm not going to get into details here because that would be too much of a digression. But even when you're playing face-to-face, you kind of get a very good sense of what blocks the opponent has, in which locations, or at least, where they come to the board. Oh, well, that block came to the board in that location. That means that that block is that block. That gives you a very good sense of where the opponent has certain units. That means that if you play the game with the blocks face up, you miss something, you lose something of the fog of war, of that experience, but not so much. Playing it with the blocks face up, knowing what all the blocks are and where they are, still is better than not playing the game, and you still get very close to the real experience. Again, this is a rule of thumb. One of my favorite games, Rumble in the Desert, is a block game and card-driven game that is absolutely impossible to play solitaire. It wouldn't make any sense. You wouldn't get 10% of the real experience that you get when you play the game with two players, because that game is so heavily based on bluffing. So that's another factor. But as you can see, sometimes unpredictable information, such as the cards that you draw, may become an advantage to you because it means that you have, as a player, limited knowledge of the options that will be open to you in a turn, in 2 turns, in 3 turns. That, of course, helps you when you're playing both sides. Another type of game that works very well is chit pool games, precisely because you have limited knowledge of the exact opportunities and possibilities that will open up to you turn after turn. You do not know exactly which of your factions is going to act the next. And it just works. It just works that way because the game is not entirely chaotic. You still get a sense of what's going to happen next, but still there will be a lot of surprises that the system will generate. You would have those surprises if you were playing face-to-face with another player. You're still going to have those surprises if you're playing the game by yourself. So some games may work better, some games not so much, but there's still ways of turning those games around. My general idea is do not preclude any game just because of the mechanics. Maybe talk to people who have played those games and you may be surprised. There may be card-driven games that work perfectly in solitaire mode. For example, also games in the command and color system are known to work very well. Solitaire games. So do not preclude anything. Keep your mind open. And the main rule, after all, is just try it. Try it. It is as simple as that. I myself, before trying it, I was very skeptical about it. And the first game that I tried in this mode was Tide of Iron. Another game which, by the way, I think works much better as a solitaire game than a two-player game, and I can elaborate on that in another occasion, because that will take us again quite far. And I was surprised that I was having so much fun. And it's not just a sort of intellectual thing. I understand history better, which is part of it. It is fun, it is exciting. And then you think, well, why? If I'm going to lose and win the game anyways. What happens to me when I play a two-player war games in solitaire mode is that at some point I start identifying emotionally with one of the two sides better than the other. To care about one of the sides and hoping that one of the sides will win over the other. If it's a balanced situation, usually towards the middle of the game, there will be a side that starts falling behind, that starts looking like that side is probably going to lose the game, and I start identifying emotionally with them and hoping that they win. Of course, when I take the other side, I still play brutally and just add my total best, because why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I be honest? I'm an honest player even when I'm playing against other players, because, well, gamers, real gamers that want to experience the game tend to be honest anyways, because if you're faking it, then you do not get to enjoy the game. You fool other people into believing you won the game, which you didn't because you cheated, and you do not have the joy of experiencing the design as is. Same thing, if I am really interested in, well, I'm really hoping that a certain side will win, then I want that side to win for real against a powerful opponent. If you win a game because you dominate the game from the beginning to the end and you never have any doubt that you will lose the game, you win the game, but was it really the most exciting game of your life? Probably not. Otherwise you would be playing war games against 6-year-olds. Usually a game that is really fun is one where you're afraid that you may lose the game, there is a moment of danger, and you turn things back and you do win against a true challenge. You can simulate that. Actually, it's not even a simulation. You can have that when you play both sides of a two-player war game. Again, you start identifying with one of the two parties, the one that probably will not make it, and you still play the other side honestly, because if you do that and you do win as the less powerful side, you will have such satisfaction, so similar if not the same as winning a two-player game with that faction against other opponent. The situation will be so similar, will give you the same excitement that you will see that, whoa, it was great, and that happened only because he played both sides honestly. But what if you just can't do it subconsciously? You want to do it, but you're afraid that you're not going to be able to make it because you know what your opponent is going to do, etc., etc. Well, again, trust me, there is something that happens there cognitively. When you switch side mentally, now I'm the Soviets, now I'm the Germans, now I'm the Allies, now I'm the Axis, you do see things differently. And again, I'm not talking about capitalism again, it's the communism or National Socialism. I'm just thinking this. When you're playing a two-player game, you look at things from your perspective, but you also try to figure out what your opponent is going to do, right? Because, well, I do this, but then my opponent may react like this and like that. You play a game in solitaire, you're doing the same thing. I am player A, I'm looking at things from my perspective, I plan my moves, getting a sense of what the opponent may try to do. I play my move. luckily enough, there will be some random element that actually may make the situation different from what I, as player A, expected. When I go to think about things as player B, again, the situation may be one that I had not predicted because of some crazy die rolls or some other results. And even if that's not the case, when you think about things, with a fresh mind from a different perspective, you may see options, opportunities that you had not seen before. When you play a two-player game against another opponent, didn't ever happen to you to think, oh, I could have done better? Did you realize something you could have done differently after the opponent starts playing? Something you could have done better, or maybe something like, oh, well, there's that option that I did not consider. Did you really consider all of the options when it was your turn? I know that doesn't happen to me, and that doesn't happen to me when I play a game as a solitaire player either. When I switch side, I do realize that there were things that I had not considered before, and quote-unquote, I'm surprised, again, without the quotes, yes, I'm surprised by seeing something I hadn't seen before. And I see an opportunity that opened up that I had no idea would open. I take it, and maybe I do that in a rush, then I switch, and I realize that that move had been a little too hasty. And again, things develop that way. Playing a game, a two-player game in solitaire, especially if it's the right game, is much more similar to playing a game face-to-face than you would imagine if you don't try it. Try it and you may be surprised. It is a great way of experiencing wargaming. It is fun. It has its own advantages. No downtime. Again, there are certain games where downtime is a huge problem. Not at all. You're always involved. You're always playing. There are advantages. You may get to play games that your friends are not interested in. You can play games where your friends are not around. Again, try it. And then if you don't like it, well, that's okay. I don't think you wasted so much time. Maybe you did. But try to go past the psychological block. Give it a try. Because if it doesn't work, you didn't lose much, but if it works, then you have a whole range of possibilities and gaming options that open to you that you didn't have before, and I think that that's a quite good thing. Okay, that was fun. That was interesting. I'm glad you picked that topic because I do a lot of solitaire wargaming. It was great to share some ideas with you. I'm sure you will still have questions. Feel free to ask, and I always try to answer to as many questions that I get as possible. If I don't get to answer yours, do not take it seriously. Don't take it seriously. I don't take it personally either. That was the first thought that I had, but also don't take it too seriously. Stuff like that happens. Anyways, what am I going to play next? Well. Historically, that is, historical games, well, the Battle for Normandy, I really want to get started with that one. Need to read the rules, put the counters in the magnet counters, in the counter magnets. That's gonna be its own enterprise, so that's gonna take some while. On the historical front, recently I had bought this game at sale by GMT, Roads to Leningrad. I received it today, and look at the amazing coincidence. What I also got in the mail today was Roads to Moscow. See the similarity? I think they're based on the same system. I really don't know anything about this game. GNT was nice enough to send it to me as a review copy. I just take this as, well, not as a sign of destiny, but as a fun coincidence, and that stimulates me to give precedence to these two games, which I'm going to play and review in the near future. That means that there's going to be a lot of World War II GMT wargaming that I'm going to be doing. On the fantasy side, because I like to alternate a little bit, probably some Thunderstone, as I said earlier. Also a fantasy war game that I've had for a while. I haven't tried it yet. I decided to finally give it a go. And that is War Party by Lock and Load. Huge box, beautiful presentation. Again, it took me almost an evening to punch all the counters and separate them and put them in some sort of like order so that I will be able to retrieve everything. Beautiful deluxe presentation. I don't know anything about the game. I hope that the game is half as good as it looks from the graphics. If that is the case, it's going to be a very good game. I think this is all for today. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for my next reviews, which are coming out soon. In 2 weeks or so, I'm going to film the 3rd episode of my video blog, in which you will have a chance to vote on games that will be played and reviewed next. For today, this is all. Thank you for watching and happy gaming.